regular meeting for August 13th, 2002. We'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing. Would you please bow your head? Heavenly Father, we thank you for giving us another day as we make decisions and watch over us. In these names we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Give a roll call, please.
Present.
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 Present. Any communications from staff at this time? None?
I have something to bring up.
You're not staff.
I know that. But, Mike Brady, I'd like to commend you on the article in the Modesto Bee, Sunday, August 4th. The city of Newman has the lowest crime rate in the county. Congratulations.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Mike. And don't forget Mike's helpers out there, too.
Well, it takes a strong leader.
Right. All right. Items from the public. There we go. While the City Council welcomes and encourages participation in the meetings, it would be appreciated if you limit your comments to 3 minutes so that everyone may be heard. Matters under the jurisdiction of the Council not on the posted agenda may be addressed for the general public at this time. However, California law prohibits the Council from taking action on any matter which is not in the posted agenda unless it's determined to be an emergency by the City Council. Any non-agenda items tonight? Okay, items for public agenda items. Any member of the audience desiring to address the Council on the matter agenda, please raise your hand or step to the podium at the time the item is announced by the mayor. In order that all interested parties may have an opportunity to speak, any person addressing the Council will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes unless the mayor grants a longer period of time. And when you come to the podium, please state your name, address for the record. Item number 7, public hearings. 7A, adopt resolution declaring the intentions of the City Council of the City of Newman to levy and collect assessments for the fiscal year 2002-2003. Approving the engineer's report is filed and confirming the levy of assessments for the fiscal year 2000-2003. Margaret, did you want to comment on that?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the Council. The item before you is an annual event that we've done for several years. As subdivisions become developed, it is agreed upon that certain improvements will occur and that the property owner will be responsible for funding the cost of maintaining the lighting and the landscaping. Currently, we have 11 zones, a total of 155 parcels that are assessed annually for these costs. The city will bring in $66,000 total to help offset these costs. Included in the packet that will be going to the county recorder's office and the county assessor's office, are 3 unpaid abatement nuisance abatement notices, and that will be taken care of at the same time. So staff has computed 2 new zones that this is the first year that they have been in place, and the other 9 have been in place for a number of years. This is a public hearing, but staff will answer any questions that council may have.
Since it is a public hearing, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone have any comments from the audience? Any comments from the council? Thank you, Margaret. Can we have some direction on this?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the said motion, resolution declaring the intentions of the City Council of the City of Newman to levy and collect assessments for the fiscal year 2002-2003.
Go ahead.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 8 is consent calendar. 8A is approval of warrants. 8B, approval of minutes of July 23rd, 2002 regular meeting. Item 8C, second reading adoption of ordinance number 2002-2, adopting the right to farm ordinance. 8D, approve an agreement with Centration Incorporated to prepare claims eligible for SB 90 reimbursement. And 8E, approve renewal of agreement for services with Self-Help Enterprises for collection of CDBG loan repayments. I have one more question on this. We also have the minutes for the special meeting last week or so.
Yeah, those were accidentally left off. However, they were not agendized up to the city attorney. I don't think it's an urgent item unless you want to
Leave 'em
make
off
it
till
one.
next time.
We can put it on for the next agenda.
Sounds good. Any questions on the consent calendar? Can we have a direction on the consent calendar?
I move we approve the consent calendar.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Regular business, item 9. 9A, appoint voting delegate for annual league conference. What we have here, just a minute. Right here, on this, it says that the city's past practice is to appoint the mayor as a voting delegate and the mayor pro tem as the alternate. But over the past few years, we haven't done this. Bob Martina was 1998, I was in 1999, and Tom Applegate was in 2000. So I think that by rotating it, it seems to work out a little better. And speaking of rotation, it's Tim's turn if you're going to be there.
I will be attending.
This will be Saturday morning.
I will be in attendance.
Okay, would you like to be the voting delegate?
Sure, it's fine.
Everyone concur with that?
Yes.
Very
Who's
good.
going to be the
Okay.
alternate?
Pardon?
Who's going to be the alternate?
John, since it's his turn next time, so,
That's fine.
okay. So all we needed was that on a consensus on that, right?
Should be fine, yeah.
Item 9B, authorize staff to proceed with request proposals for downtown plaza design project. Cleve?
You have attached to this document the RFP, which is ready to go. Staff, as reported in the report, had delayed putting this out until we made sure on the final budget, but council's directed that perhaps you want to move forward this and not delay it any further. As I mentioned, these are proposed to come out of RDA funds and therefore would not be affected by the state budget, what you decide to do. So I do have just, whoop, I got them out of order. That's the one I was looking for. This is just to show you in the audience. I think you have a copy of this in your packet, but this is the downtown original plan. There are some things we need to go back and research and look over. There were actually 3 options for the plaza, and then in talking to Judy, perhaps even the 3 options, one of them was changed in the end. So there's going to have to be some research done and some looking at this when we finally get into it. So
Cleve, I see the deadline here for proposals September 18th.
that's initially what we had set.
Do we
Yes.
think that we will receive adequate number of proposals by that time?
The normal process, what we've usually received in this is, well, maximum of 2 since I've been here, one for the downtown job and things like that we've done. There's usually only been 2 that have bid on this. I know that the one, RRM, I've already talked to them. I know that they will submit a proposal, and we will try to seek others out also.
So we can
We'll-
kind of make it competitive, perhaps?
Yeah, there are some other companies that I know of, and I will make sure that the RFP is sent to them, and so they have adequate time to consider it.
Okay. On this, on the project, you say it's going to be done in 4 phases, but I see phase 1 is design, phase 2 is funding and phasing options. What are the other 2 phases?
That's a typo, I apologize, it should just be 2 phases.
Okay.
I patterned this after the downtown streetscape project, which was proposed to be done in a 4-phase deal, and I scaled this back just to the 2 for now,
Okay.
so.
Any questions for Cleve on this? Can we have a motion to approve the staff to proceed request proposals for downtown
I
plaza?
move we authorize staff to proceed with requests for proposals for downtown plaza design project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item 9C, authorize city manager to enter into a contract with Code Publishing.
Judy might need to help me on this. She's been working on this actually for ever since I've been here. I think we've been looking at trying to get this done, and there's been various things that have come up that have prevented us. Our code is in need of updating. We went to the current company, which is Sterling, and we budgeted money for this every year since I've been here. We looked at using them and updating again, and then Judy got a proposal from another company, Code Publishing, who uses a different format, which, as we reviewed it and looked at it, we feel is a more favorable format, works better, makes it smaller so we get more in the book. We can fit everything in one book without going to multiple volumes. And it appears that it would be better for the city to use this new format, and the service seems to be good. We have called and got references. We've talked to others who use this, and it seems to be a very good program. We'll also are proposing that we go to the this will be on the internet so that the public can have access to the code from anywhere to review it when they have questions. Also, staff can bring it up electronically rather than go to the hard copy if they want to get it. So it'll be quite I feel a good update to our code. We'll make other services available to the public and make it more accessible for all of us.
Can we request that they go through and make a better subject indexing so it's easier to find things in there?
They've said that they will do that, right, Judy?
Okay.
Yeah, that was one of the other factors, yeah, as we reviewed it.
Every time we go to look for something, we have a hard time trying to find it in
Right.
there, so.
I think it's tremendous. This should knock out a lot of complaints from the public. All they have to do is get on the internet and look it up without having to come into City Hall to find out and maybe get wrong information. I think it's terrific.
I agree. The format that's proposed is a lot easier to read it too.
Yeah, you will
Makes
know
more
that we thought the cost was going to be a little closer. It turned out being a little bit higher. It is still within budget, and it allows us to do the things that we want to. So
Is our current web capacity and capabilities, will it be
we are
able to
currently
interface
working.
with this?
Yeah, we're currently working on some new things with our web that we'll be bringing back to you. There's actually, as you know, the county has been working on the new portal site for the county-wide. And they agreed to set up a new website, a template for the city that we could use to establish a new website. And so we are looking at that. They've done it for us. We've seen the first page mock-up. We've looked at that. And so, and this new one will be set up to handle more of the things such as downloading of electronic forms, and in the future even going to electronic utility payments and things like that. So we are planning on upgrading that. We haven't brought that back to council yet. It hasn't cost us anything yet. They've done it for us for free, and so we'll be looking at doing that in the future. This will be hosted, as I understand it, Judy, this will be hosted actually on Code Publishing's, no, it will be on our website. It could be either way. And she said that it doesn't take a lot of space. It shouldn't be a problem.
It'd be preferable if they can access it through our
ours.
web address.
Well, either way, it would be a link to theirs. What I've looked at is, since there may be a slight delay in getting this up and going, depending on what we do with our website, is we may talk to them about hosting it on theirs initially to get it up and going sooner, and then when we get our situation settled with our website, we could then bring it on board on ours. Okay.
Do we have a projected timeline when we'll have this codified in a new format? We approve this, how long will it be before we're able to have it?
Judy says they're talking about 4 months to complete the process. And there'll be some work on behalf of the city too, department heads. We're going to go through and make sure that there's a thorough review done of these. There is some stuff, as you know, that is outdated and needs to be looked at, and so we're going to, go through that process at the same time to try and correct some
There's
things.
also a lot of redundancies in there. that
Right.
have to be.
Right. Because there's stuff on there right now that we don't never intend to enforce.
Right.
So you pull all that stuff out,
Yeah.
and like
that-
and
that-
it does force you to clean it up.
Right. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, can we have some direction on this?
Yeah, I move we authorize city manager to enter into a contract with Code Publishing Company to republish the Newman City Code.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item 8D, Fall Festival 2002 Informational Report. Mike?
Spending our money.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. The Fall Festival is almost upon us again. It's hard to believe it's only about 2 weeks away. And we want to take this opportunity to inform the council of the preparations that the police department, along with other departments, made to ensure that this is a safe event this year. We have the routine street closures as we've had in the past for the parade and other events. We have our street. We have the carnival be coming in on Thursday, and so we're looking at closing off that street. As you can see, the street closures that we have here, we're looking at streets that will be affected to be R, Fresno, Tulare Q, and then the parade route, which will be the traditional down Main Street. We're also looking at the use of the north parking stalls along in the city parking lot for display of historic farm engines and dairy machines from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday. This is something that was last year, and they're going to continue on this year, but they're just
I've been to the meetings, and I think John's got it under control pretty well, so unless something
Things are
jumps
rolling.
up there that no one knows about, why, looks like it's going to be a good one.
You getting a lot of volunteers, John? Maybe you need more people?
Well, you're helping right
Well,
now.
I know, but I'm just saying.
We could always use
Maybe you
more.
ought to ask the public.
We always could use more for sure. But the main events are covered, but that day we could use more, like for the parade on Sunday and meeting tomorrow night at my house, if anybody else wants to help.
What's your address?
1339 Stevens Avenue.
Invite them over, but don't tell them where you are.
By now, everybody knows where I live, so. You'll be there? You'll be there? Oh.
Okay, any other questions for John or for Mike? Okay, thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Chief.
And let's see. Item number 9E, recommendation the city council authorizes staff to change the city's cellular service to Nextel. Mike, you want to talk about that too?
yeah, I didn't get very far.
He's got 3 in a row.
Well, the staff has been investigating cellular service as we are dissatisfied with the current one we have. We are experiencing things as dropped calls. We've had it where our messaging, where we've had our messages where it's taken up to 2 hours before they reach the phone. So it's hard to be effective when you're having that kind of service. Plus the service area that we have, the signal strength seems to be very weak in this area. So we are looking at different types of service at this point. one of the services that we were looking at, which is a little bit different, is Nextel. Nextel is not only just cellular service, but it's also a two-way radio. It's included also as part of the service. This actually has a different level of service. And so what we're looking at here is making some changes citywide. The nice thing about Nextel, or the most effective portion of Nextel, is the more users that you have on the system with the two-way radio, because basically you have instant connections. We're finding and looking at our service that we call each other a lot. Will give us instant access to our city manager and public works, water department, sewer, and any of those other features that would come into play. This also, for the police department, comes into play with the schools. They also have Nextel. It's part of our school preparedness for emergency situations that may occur on the school grounds, and so that would also give us. Plus, one of the things that we're finding too, in looking at what other departments are utilizing, a lot of these departments have already moved over to Nextel. Stanislaus County, Modesto, most of the cities, I think there's just one that has not moved over to the Nextel service. So, to me, that shows somewhat of the integrity of the system, and also its effectiveness. And I can tell you that the thing I was concerned about too was the phones being able to be very rugged, because my staff is not always the easiest people on on equipment, and so we were also looking to see how that would work out into the field. So we're looking at changing the service. Also, one thing I'd like to kind of point out too is that during 911, when that happened in New York, Nextel was the only service that was available and up and running for communications for a long period of time until they were able to get, I think it was almost about 19 hours, which in a critical situation really makes a difference. To kind of pay for this change, I refer you over to what we're looking at doing here. We're looking at making a change in my department. I'm looking at making a change of eliminating 3 pagers because of the direct connect portion of the phone that we'd be able to eliminate, and the coverage that this phone actually has. We're looking at being able to have the range where we'd be able to reach all the way up. I believe it's up towards Ukiah and as far down as Indio at this point with the Nextel. And I'm not sure we hit all those areas, but that just shows how much range. We also looked at some of the things that were having problems as far as losing signal, and places like Dalbo Grande and mountainous areas and where the cellular phone may fail, but the radio portion would be available to us. So to pay for this, basically the police department was looking at eliminating 3 pagers. We're looking at adding 2 services for us. I would add 1 to my corporal, so I'd have my, and 1 to the office, so they'd be able to reach us at any time on the cellular portion. Kind of interesting. I'm looking at the department looking at having it where I'll be on the same service with Cleve, and my office phone will be on that, just because it's cheaper to be able to make that kind of a move. And we'll be sharing cell minutes and radio minutes. And then the rest of my staff will be having it where it'll be unlimited, so I won't have to worry about overages on the phone. Plus, it's a shared plan, so that means that the 200 cell minutes would be 200 minutes for all the phones on that particular plan. So
200 minutes a month?
A month per phone.
Okay.
So that's for I have 5 phones that'll be on that one plan. That's 1,000 minutes. That's a lot of talk. So we've never exceeded that on our other plan, and that's the cheapest plan that they had for the unlimited use of the radio, and that's what concerned me, because I was afraid those radio minutes could add up pretty quickly.
Right, so that'll actually be an unlimited walkie-talkie type.
That's correct.
Nextel.
Right.
Nextel. Okay.
Except for like my Cleve, myself, and the office phone that I will have. My office phone will not have cellular service. It'll only have the radio. So I'll be able to share the radio minutes. Cleve and I will share radio minutes. We'll have 300 minutes between the 3 phones there. I was looking at the usage. I don't seem to be the biggest talker on my department, so it seems like I'll be able to stay within my cellular and my radio minutes.
What's the approximate range on the radio part of that?
As far as distance it would be able to reach?
Right.
Well, I said, we were looking at Ukiah, it's probably about this, as far.
Well, on the radio part,
On the
portion
radio
of it?
part.
Oh,
I'll give you an
Walmart.
example, Mayor. I was up at Lake Tahoe, actually I was in Carson City with another city manager, and he called his office in Fowler down south of Fresno on the radio, and clear as a bell, was able to talk to him. So that's an example. The radio basically has almost the same coverage that the phone does.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, but it has to be feeding off some transmitter in the area.
Yes, and they just,
yeah,
I think the closest transmitter, did they just put one up in Patterson, I believe?
I believe so.
So, as far as,
Because you're not going to transmit with a walkie-talkie that far. It's
No.
gonna
No.
It's going to
No.
have to retransmit it.
Right.
right, and they
Yeah,
have
it is.
towers throughout the,
Okay.
the area, so it's got a lot of coverage. That doesn't
Yeah,
seem
that's
to be-
excellent.
Yes, I think that would really be great. And so what we're looking at as far as, to try and make the cost down here, I'll put you down here to where I have the cost factor on the last page over here, is basically for a year. I'm adding 2 services also on this, but it'd be $324.29 over what I currently have budgeted, which is about $3,200, I believe. And then I'm also looking at picking up the phones through grant funding, but that's still a cost, and that would be at $1,744.20. Public Works is also looking at trying to economize a little bit. They are also adding some services and eliminating a pager. He would be looking at a yearly cost of $233.96 with a capital outlay of just $241.99. He's looking at, they're also offering some free phones. So he's taking advantage of those options also. And then our city manager, I don't think he can go any cheaper than, I think I'm almost paying the $20.40 for paging service. It's so that's very cheap. He's actually going down and saving the city some money. So for that, we're looking at a total capital outlay of about $1,936.87. But as I said, the biggest portion of that is the phones for the police department, which I will take out of our technology money. And I will answer any kind of questions you want.
This sounds as if it's putting everything online together, because we have AT&T wireless, we have on the warrants 2 different services for our wireless. So now we're going to make it comprehensive where everybody could talk to one another all through Nextel.
To me, that's the strength of the Nextel system. The more people who are on the system, the more it's valuable that system becomes, and the more effective it is. Also, the feature that this has on the radio is we'll be able to also kind of do like a conference call. You can actually talk to about 2 or 3 people on the radio portion, at least not on all at the same time, but I mean they can be listening in on those conversations. And I know that Ernie was just explaining to me about a situation in which he had a water well that was, and he was really frustrated with our current phone system because he was having to wait for information to come back. Where if he had the Nextel at that particular junction, he'd be able to have that information rapidly and be able to make probably a better decision, or at least not have to get frustrated waiting for information to come to him.
Well, I think the increased benefits outweigh the added cost.
I agree.
I would concur. Have we tested it?
Yes, we have. We've
Can
tested.
you hear me now?
That's not Verizon. Though.
Well, that's what you have right now is Verizon?
No, I'm sorry. We have AT&T. We have AT&T and Pac-Bell.
No, I think it's a good idea. I brought mine as show and tell, but I'm not going to call anybody because I didn't tell them I was, and you never know what they're going to say. But this is the size it'll be. This is the size it'll be.
We use Nextel.
And that is the radio
We
one
use
that
you
Nextel
sell?
in
Yeah.
my police department.
Do you like them?
Yeah, well, you can
That's
talk
pretty
car to
nice.
car and
Pass
use
it
the
down.
handheld. So
And I talked to a friend of mine last Thursday that was at Hot August Nights in Reno, and it sounded like he was next door. So
It's amazing how far they can reach.
yep.
See, there's no charge for that call. either.
No.
Hey,
Tom, get out of your
Tom,
box.
now,
Now time.
I'm familiar with it. Thank you.
one of the things that, not to pick on Ernie, but he's been our biggest user of the cell phone, and he was the one that we really, we really needed to correct. But a lot of his calls that he gets are incoming also, and so the plan that we've selected for him has free incoming calls. So the calls, and for the police department, I believe too. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah, for
All of
some
theirs.
of them. Ours, the ones that we share
not,
not.
yeah, not the chief and I, but the others are all free incoming calls. So those 200 minutes he talked about won't go towards the incoming calls. So we think this will be, plenty of minutes, and will serve the departments well.
Chief, do you have one designated for officers out on patrol?
I have
On
two.
the-
Currently, we have two cell phones out there. We'll be replacing those with a more durable Nextel
Nextel.
phone. But, yeah, yes, we're looking at that. Plus, like I said, we're actually increasing our service. That's why there's more of a cost factor in there, because we're also, our supervisory staff, we're now giving that to a corporal who actually covers half of the time with the officers. So it's going to give us a lot more coverage, a lot more, I think, accessibility. I think it's going to make it a lot easier system to be able to work with it.
Are you gonna keep it monitored to keep us from the overage? Because you know how, once you go over those free allotted minutes, that's usually where they make a lot of their...
That's deadly to
money.
us, so we will make sure that that happens. That's why we wanted to look at the shared plans, because I can't think that we could be able to exceed those limitations.
Well, you did a very good write-up.
Thank you.
It's comprehensive.
My next meeting, you'll have to correct me on.
Peaches.
Any other questions? Can we have a motion?
I'll move we authorize staff to change the city's cellular service to Nextel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Now that you're still there, Mike,
Don't leave.
how about item 9F? Introduce ordinance number 2002, next number, amending Title 3, Chapter 6 of Newman Municipal Code, Public Dance Halls.
Yes, it's interesting, we were talking earlier about some cleanup, and that's pretty much where this ordinance really came into play. We got, staff was contacted by a local business owner, the owner of Bleachers actually, in regards to our dance hall ordinance. And we were looking, specifically, we were kind of starting out with the fees, but then in reading the ordinance, there was a lot of times that we were, a lot of things that were out of date, things that we wouldn't do and that that needed to be changed. And so in working with our city attorney, we were able to make different language regarding that. And just kind of what we're looking at is when we were talking about fees is this Bleachers is looking at trying to do this entertainment 5 to 6 times per week. And right now we're currently charging about 12 times. We're forcing them to come in for an individual permit per time. And so we're looking at trying to make things a little bit easier on the business owners, something that's a little bit more easier, which would be allowing for either an individual one, a weekly permit, monthly or yearly, just depending on their needs. There's also some other changes that we're looking in here, and as you can see on the attached portion. We started out with, actually starting out with the name of the ordinance. Instead of going from dance halls, we're just going after public dances. We had some definition changes. Actually, I think the ordinance really reads the same as it did. I will admit to one typo on at the bottom of the page, number 3. It says the event may lead to breaches of the peach. Well, not looking at a food fight, but it actually is supposed to be peace. So, or civil disorders or riotous conduct. So if you look in here, this is a lot of cleanup. We changed definitions so we could go after showing what a commercial and what a non-commercial dance permit would look like, how the applications would be done. Also, one of the things I'm really happy that we were able to kind of put in here was under the conditions of the permit that now have the right to revoke the permit and stop this dance at any time if the public safety comes into jeopardy. So those are some changes that we're looking at. There was also some reference to religious events and those things, and so that language has also been changed.
Does this revocation include a permanent revocation or just a revocation of the particular dance?
At this
Where
point,
permit was
it
issued?
was just for the particular dance.
And then the application being subject to approval under the event may lead to breaches of peace. I want to say peace because that's
I know.
civil disorder or riotous conduct. Is that just a judgment call on your?
That's
your
right.
part?
Really, I wanted to leave some latitude and some wiggle room, I guess, to how that would be interpreted. Or I had the city attorney look at this to see how we would do that. But I wanted to be able to have something in there that we would be able to revoke that, if it was a yearly permit, that we'd be looking at, if there was problems there, a lot of police contact, that we would have some grounds to be able to deny that permit, and those are the grounds, one of the grounds I'd be able to do that.
I
with.
just think that's important for the benefit of my colleagues in the event that there is something that does occur, God forbid, that it would, if it becomes a mutual aid call-out type of situation, you would start looking at some budget items with what might happen
Correct.
with a overcrowdedness, and it became such a type of incident. We would want to be able to revoke that to say,
Mhm.
well, you know, we had that incident there. We're paranoid of such an incident occurring again, where under our
Mhm.
ordinance, we'll have that type of power through the
Right.
chief.
And depending on which establishment, if it happens to be a bar where alcohol and dancing may cause us to have more contact down there, if that got to be an issue, we also have the ABC that controls the liquor license, and we'd be able to contact them, and they have limitations on things as far as conduct that they have as far as their license and controlling it that way. So, so the ordinance gives us the authority out there. I'm sorry.
I just saw one thing too at the end.
Okay.
Section that Councilman Parker was talking about, at the end of 2 we have and, I think we meant or.
Oh, where's this at, sir? I'm sorry.
Bottom of the first page there.
Oh. At number 2, last
Yeah.
word, or. Okay.
And I missed that Friday when
Okay.
we talked, I just noticed it now.
Okay.
So with that, Tom, this has enough teeth?
This is also an infraction.
Yeah, so that'd be in addition to shutting it down, you can also cite somebody. We didn't want to get into a misdemeanor and have more staff time on that, but you at least have both kind of a civil sanction and then technically a criminal one too.
I think the ordinance is fair, but I think it gives us the grounds to be able to do what we have to do for the public safety. So I think it's a change that we really needed to look at.
What was the original cost of the individual dance permit? that he would
Individually, it
have?
was $12 per dance.
Okay.
So, and we'll be coming to you in the future with also with other fees to look at. We have some proposed or recommending some fees that we're kind of looking at this point. They're not set in stone, so I have those in the report, and we'll be coming back with you to talk about the actual fees
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, just so you know, as of right now, the fee is still $12 per dance. And until this states that they will be the fee is adopted by resolution. So until we do that, the fee is this doesn't change the fee yet. It's still $12 per dance.
Right.
So we still need to go through that process, get the resolution adopted. We normally do that about this time of year, don't we, Margaret, to adopt all fees, go through that process, reviewing, making sure that they are in line with the services being provided. So whether or not we wait for that, we'll work with Margaret on that and see if we wait for that process, or we immediately schedule this for the next meeting to get because the fees have to go through that public hearing process, and what is it, a 30-day waiting period, I believe, Tom? So.
And then 30 days after the next meeting for just this ordinance.
Right, right, but we can go ahead and change the fees in that same process, Ken. We don't have to wait for the end of this 30 days to start that fee process, so.
Any other questions? All right, can we have a motion to introduce ordinance number 2002, next number?
I move we introduce ordinance number 2002, next number, amending Title 3, Chapter 6 of the Newman Municipal Code Public Dance Halls.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 9G, review goals and objectives.
We just do this?
Skip that one.
Cleve, you want to?
Yeah, we can, do you want me to go through all of these and update?
I think for
It's
in
up to
sake
you, I'm
of,
prepared to do it, I
the
have it on
time,
the
I
thing.
think just the ones that aren't on target, or just the ones that are
Okay.
revised, I think that we ought to,
Okay.
I think we know which ones are finished and which ones are on target.
Let me just go through here quickly and see what, first set of goals, I think the only thing is that we've put in there is the RFP for the plaza project. And that's really the only thing that needs updating. As you know, the issue throughout here, you'll see the issue with the industrial park improvements. And there's 2 or 3 places where those are related, including on this first page. Just quickly, I will state that the issue with that is still the issue with the storm drain and the high water table that we're attempting to resolve. I will be meeting with our city engineer on Monday, and we hope that by then we've come up with a solution for that. I also met with George Souza today. He's got a proposal of another option that might work. Actually, we may do both of these with them. It may work to look at both of these options. His proposal is to look at a tile drain system similar to what we have up on the north side, possibly that might work in conjunction with how we're proposing to do the storm drain down there. So we should have that resolved. I spoke to Norbert Rocha today. He understands where we're at, and he's comfortable with that at this point. And I've explained to him all the things we're trying to go through to get this done, and he's on board with us. So we're keeping that moving. The next page, improved community involvement. Mentioned that the draft copy of the welcome packets for the city of Newman is still being reviewed by the chamber. As I understand, we don't have that back from them. We've submitted that to them. The other one is on the town hall meeting, which was held on August 6th regarding the volunteerism. We'll continue to look at additional things along with that, but that meeting was held on August 6th. It was proposed. So in here, I put 9-1 because there was some confusion on this. I actually did this report before I left to go on vacation, and so you could mark that one as done at this point. But I think we do need to look at doing some.
Which one is this now?
That's number 4 on improved community involvement. I think that I've talked to Councilmember Parker. I think there maybe are some other things.
Yeah,
that
we'll
wanna
revisit
continue
it.
to
It's
work
on
on.
our next agenda.
The minutes, sorry,
Right.
yes,
So we'll
Yeah.
talk about it then.
Yeah.
right. So,
Right.
enhanced police services. I wrote that we do need to bring back and see if there is something we want to do with implementation of officer retention plan. You did receive that proposal previously. You've already had that, and that was on target. And now the next step is whether or not we move forward with anything to implement any parts of that. Item number 3, contracting services with the county. We've had an initial meeting. That is in progress, and we do plan on bringing a report back to the council to look at the pros and cons on that prior to October 1st. Under improved cities infrastructure, many of these are related to the storm drain plan, or the industrial park, excuse me. The number 3, the pavement management system, we hope to come back by your second meeting in September to review that, have a presentation. Staff will be being trained later this month. And under number 5, we have held an initial wastewater task force meeting, and we've looked at our wastewater needs. I've directed our consultant on some other things that we need to do there, and we'll be holding another meeting probably the end of August to look further into that. Just wanted to state simply there was some information that came out in that may have appeared to be gloom and doom, that we are out of wastewater capacity. I spoke to our consultant about that, and he assured me that it's not to look at a gloom and doom situation. We're not out of capacity. We do need to begin the process now. We are there. He stated that for 100 homes to come in would increase our capacity, or increase our usage by about 2%. He said, we are not in trouble till we increase it at least by 10%. And then then it'll be a little bit more tight. So, in other words, we have room for at least 500 homes, is potentially what he's looking at. And he's going to finalize that report and get it to us to take back to the task force at our next meeting. But I just want to assure the council that, you know, you're still going to be able to, you know, run your water and flush your toilets tomorrow. It's not that gloom and doom
Well, here's
situation.
my crucial question then.
Yes.
If it has room for capacity of 500 homes,
Yes.
is that in exceeding the homes that we've already approved?
No, that
for
includes the
development?
ones that we have approved.
So if that was
Yeah.
built out, then we would be exceeding our capacity?
Right.
Well, there's
Close,
some wiggle
close.
room
There's
in
some-
there, not necessarily,
There's not a
but
lot,
but it
but
could
we
be.
have-
Yeah.
But there's
Could
other
be.
steps that we could take too that we had talked about.
Correct. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, leasing some ponds and that kind of stuff.
I think the thing the reason I bring this up, and Ernie, if you want to add anything, is that, you know, we don't need to run out and panic. You know, we're starting on this at the time we should be starting on it to get it in line to expand our plant. And we're doing it the way we should be doing. So I don't want anybody to panic and say, you know, we're going to run out of capacity tomorrow, because that's
No, it's
not
not.
the
No,
case.
but we don't have room for procrastination.
No.
Right, and that's the point. We're starting now, and we need to continue with the process and move it forward.
We need to have
So-
something going within 2 years. But it does prohibit us in economic development of, you know, not having anybody that comes in that does use water. So,
What it does.
at this point in time.
It prohibits us in being able to bring in what we would call a
Right.
wet user.
Right.
We don't really anticipate that happening in what we've looked at in uses in our industrial park. The dry users that will come in, I don't see a problem with that and what we projected to come in down there. It's only if another cheese plant happened to come in, yeah, that would
Right.
be a problem. So overall, you know, it's time to start the process, but we're not in bad shape. So. Moving along the next page, those items are all on target. There's really no change on there, with the exception of the one related to the industrial park that I've already talked about. Enhance the appearance of the city. Most of those are on target. The one I did make a change on, I didn't really put a date in there, but discussed with Councilmember Parker when we were talking about the volunteerism, about scheduling under number 3, a volunteer day, and possibly doing that on October 26th, which is a scheduled Make a Difference Day. It's a national thing. It's referred to as Make a Difference Day, when a lot of cities, a lot of communities will do different things to do a specific volunteer project. So that's just something I'm throwing out as something for us to consider, recommending we might want to do, to plan something and look at that day to do something.
That's not the date of the band review, is it? It
Is it the same day as
It
the band
is.
review?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can make a difference on the band
On
review.
Band Review Day.
Give them a clean place to march.
If I may, I wanted to go back and just comment on the one section, enhancing police services, number 3 that you mentioned. And I just want to allude to what my colleague, Councilman Applegate, mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, complimenting our chief on the fact that we have the lowest crime rate in our county. I think that says a lot in terms of having the autonomy of our own police department as well. But certainly, looking at the pros and cons will be beneficial. But I just wanted to put that out there because he did commend the chief on that factor, and it does speak loudly when it comes to crime statistics.
Okay, any other questions for Cleve or anyone? Okay. Moving on to item number 9H. Adopt resolution number 2002, next number, approving a subdivision improvement agreement with Hearthstone Builders Incorporated for installation of improvements in Phase 1 of Hearthstone Ranch subdivision.
Council, if you will bear with me quickly, I have, this has been a work in progress for the last, 4 years, I believe, a work in progress, but it has really picked up over the last week, I think. And so I have a new agreement to pass out to you. There's only a couple of areas that I'll note where the changes are, but I wanted you to have that tonight. It's not, I don't believe, major changes. Couple of things that I need to bring out in the agreement. As you know, this is for the Hearthstone Ranch subdivision. This agreement covers only Phase 1, which is approximately, well, not approximately, it is 88 lots. 83 lots. 83 lots. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So that's what this will take care of. It'll be phased. The first phase it will only be the 83 lots, the school site, and the 1.2 acres, 1.4 acres of park site approximately adjacent to the school site. A couple of things that have been done in this, and the city engineer has looked at this and found the final map to be in substantial compliance with the tentative map, which is one of the requirements. But in looking at some of the conditions, there are some things that we feel are in compliance, but would they have changed slightly. Probably the biggest one of note is the issue with the off-site improvements down Swamp Rats Road, including the storm drain channel and the sewer line to connect to the sewer trunk line going out to the sewer plant. We've been working on this, as you know, for quite some time. There were issues with being able to obtain the right-of-way down there and get those facilities built. The recommendation that is being brought to you tonight, as you know, that those facilities, the sewer line and the storm drain channel, are designed to to serve an area of approximately 900 acres. Hearthstone Ranch is approximately 114 acres. So you can see it's a very small part of the project, which was asked to carry and put in these improvements to serve the full 900 acres. We've gone, I'll say, some minor battles that we've had over this issue in trying to get it resolved. And the recommendation that's coming before you in this agreement is that rather than put those improvements in, they would agree to pay a fee which will be required of all developers within that 900 acres, a fee per house or per unit, and that fee has been established by our city engineer to pay for those improvements at a certain time when they are required. We have determined in looking at this that both Hearthstone and Sherman Ranch, I believe, and my city engineers out here, can be served through the existing system without these off-site trunk lines being built. They will be required at some future point. And so what our proposal is, and our recommendation to the council, is that these developers that come in within this 900-acre area will pay this fee into the city per unit, which will be per house or per 1,000 square feet for any commercial or an industrial that might come in. That fee will be collected, and at some point in the future, there will be a trigger that will state we now have to install these new improvements down Swamp Rats Road.
What's that trigger?
We're not sure. That hasn't been exactly established yet. We know that it won't come with either the Hearthstone or Sherman Ranch project. It'll be sometime beyond that.
Combination of the Hearthstone, which is what, 83, 110 acres, plus
Actually, the
Sherman.
Hearthstone total project is 374
This is the first
homes.
phase.
Right. But I'm saying the total project of Hearthstone and the total project of Sherman Ranch should not require us to
Develop further
develop
infrastructure?
that trunk line and the storm drain channel down Swamp Rats Road. It'll be sometime after that it will be determined that we can no longer take any through the existing system, and it'll be required
Well,
to
we
go
talked
down the
about
new
this at
system.
length at our last meeting with the,
Yes.
the provision
the
of the basin. So-
Right.
Correct.
Right. So that is the main thing. You can find that, if I can find it quickly, in your agreement. The fee comes out to 190, trying to find it here, $90.86 per lot, which will be paid into the city to collect money for those off-site improvements.
Cleve, would those be put into a special account
Yes, they will definitely have to be put into a special account and secured.
and earmarked for just that purpose?
Just for that purpose, correct. Yeah.
It would be section I under page 6, and so that everyone knows where this voice is coming from. I'm Curtis Nelson with Hearthstone Builders, 1335 Main Street here in Newman.
So that's what spells out that portion. The other portion of the agreement that there has been some discussion on over the last few days is the reimbursements. The improvements that they will be doing, even though they're not doing the off-site improvements, there are a significant amount of improvements, including the Sherman Parkway, the channel which goes adjacent to Sherman Parkway, as well as some other trunk lines that are being put in that are basically oversized for future development. If you look at the last page or in the exhibits, there is a reimbursement schedule that is included with this.
Which exhibit?
That would be Exhibit E, no, D, excuse me.
Okay, I'm exhibit.
Exhibit D is the reimbursement schedule. Spells out what the reimbursements will be for and this is in accordance with city adopted ordinances, what the reimbursements will be. What we are doing with this agreement is the reimbursements will come in the form of a reimbursement agreement. In other words, we will give them fee credits up to the amount of fees that they are paying in the individual areas. Beyond that, they will be paid back over time when additional fees come in from future developers. Our current plan that we are working in accordance with currently is the Citywide Services Master Plan, because these maps were vested under the old plan rather than our new fee schedule, as you know. So we are also using the old reimbursement schedule that is in our Citywide Services Master Plan. That document defines the reimbursement to be over 15 years. That is opposed to our new document, which defines the reimbursements over 7-year periods. We're not really objecting to that. I know that the developer has a recommendation that he would like to present to you to even extend that further, due to the fact that all of the areas that will become that will pay fees into this reimbursement are currently under Williamson Act, which has a 10-year cancellation period before any development could start on it. So it kind of makes sense in looking at the 7-year that's in our new adopted one that would not probably work for this particular development, due to the fact that nobody could develop anything at least within 10 years because of the cancellation policy. Staff's recommendation currently is to look at the 15-year agreement that is in our Citywide Services Master Plan, and there are some other provisions that staff is recommending in our new reimbursement agreement. It states that the reimbursements are done over a 7-year period, as I noted. At the end of the 7-year period, any amounts that have not been reimbursed at that time are done away with, and there's no longer any further reimbursement after that. The third item that I'm concerned about that is still not in even the agreement that I've handed out to you is the issue of interest. Our new adopted reimbursement policy that we have in place states that the interest rate will be 0. There will be no interest paid on these monies. I think there's arguments both ways on that. Staff's position is this is not money that we have in our coffers to collect interest on, and therefore we should not be paying interest on it. So our recommendation is that there needs to be additional language in this, or we need to refer to a reimbursement agreement, a separate document that would address that issue on the reimbursement, all the terms of the reimbursement. The developer, and I'll let them address this, are concerned and want to try and get this resolved tonight so that they can move forward with their project. And I guess staff's not opposed to that if we can be comfortable with all these provisions being put into the agreement. With that, those are the changes that you can see. The reimbursement part is in item number 18 in this agreement, if you'd like to look at that. There are some changes that were made to that from your initial agreement that was given you in your packet. As I mentioned, I feel there are, yes, page 8. I feel there are still a couple of items that are still lacking there, and our city attorney has been very involved with this also. And I don't know, Tom, if you have anything you want to add to that, but.
That basically comes down to the number of years, and then I'd recommend we just add anything regarding interest to that same paragraph. Keep it simple.
We'd love to collect interest, if we could affix them out tonight. First item I'd like to address, though, is the number of years. And as Cleve did mention, all of the undeveloped properties that have joined this project are currently under the Williamson Act. Stanislaus County, LAFCO, no longer accepts any applications for annexation to a city that carry a Williamson Act contract. The only way that a landowner can get out of it is a notice of non-renewal, which takes 10 years. It's taken us 4 years to get to this point. Under a 15-year agreement, now we're only going to get reimbursement for 1 year of something that takes a lot longer than 15 years. We'd like to recommend a minimum of 20 years that this subdivision agreement would be enforced. Item number 2, I'd like to discuss. I'd like to know what the council's feelings are on a moderate interest rate. Certainly, I don't know, 4%, 6%. If we don't want to talk interest, then we will take it off the table this evening because we want this to be the last time we're in front of you with Unit 1. We want to proceed. We want to start moving dirt.
What's your third item?
I didn't have a third item.
Okay.
I'm here to answer any questions you folks might have.
John?
I think I don't know, you're hitting us at a time when we don't even know what our own budget's going to be, as far as the way the state's going to go and all that stuff. So I wouldn't want to commit to an interest rate tonight, that's for sure.
Well, maybe this item could be addressed and this could be modified when we come back with Unit 2. That gives us some flexibility to do some things and look into some things. Because basically, if there is an interest provision in this agreement, it's paid for not by the city. It's paid for by other development. Their fees are increased by X factor of interest that's in here, and it is not a direct cost to the city.
But the mitigation for the other developers would be the 10-year wait because of the Williamson Act under the water rights, correct?
Well,
Am I
Williamson
fair
Act
analysis?
guarantees a farmer a reduced income or property tax rate because they are farming.
Right. But in order for any further annexation, which you just mentioned, from the county, it would be about a 10-year waiting period.
Correct. There are no properties adjacent to this project that I'm aware of that have filed a notice of non-renewal.
That's not to say, though, not to argue with you, Curtis, but that there couldn't be some planning going on during that 10-year period to prepare for development when it does come off. Now, that's taking a chance on their part because they don't know that LAFCO is going to annex or anything like that. But some of that planning work, getting up to being ready to develop at the end of the 10-year period, could be done even though it hasn't been taken out of the Williamson Act.
One of the things that I would like to counter with that, Cleve, is the fact that it is so expensive now to do that preliminary planning, do your tentative maps, all those pretty pictures that we showed you. Until you have a guarantee that you are probably going to get annexed to a city and have a project, there aren't many developers that are willing to expend that amount of money. Just because entitlements, whether are so time-consuming and so expensive now, similar to what we have had with Hearthstone Ranch, and we most certainly thank this council, the previous council, the city planning commission, and staff for the diligent efforts. But we've had conditions of approval that we were given 3 years ago that we're still working through.
You were talking about the interest not being paid by the city, but by charging higher fees to the developers in the future, which in turn is going to raise the cost of the house because it'll be passed right on to the buyer. And that's making all the housing even less affordable for people. And that's one of the big problems we have here, is trying to find housing that's affordable for the people that live here, not the people that come over from the Bay Area.
I understand that, but just to point out, and not to say that we're greedy, but we're probably looking at $1 million worth of reimbursement here, money that I've got out of pocket over the entire project that I'm waiting to hopefully get back. So we're talking substantial amounts of money. And that's a decision that I'm willing to let the council make.
That money that's going to be sitting there, we won't have any use for that, will we?
What money?
The money, the reimbursement funds, they're just going to be.
We don't get the money. As soon as it'll come in on an annual basis.
Right,
and
but we're not
it'll
gonna be able to
it'll
use
paid
it.
right back out to them.
We're not getting any advantage out of it. The
No.
city.
Not really, no.
then I don't see why we should pay interest.
We will be required to pay that as reimbursement to the developer. That's part of the
Right, but we
process.
can't use it in running the city.
No.
But then why should we pay interest on it when we're not getting any benefit out of it?
It's true.
I mean,
I agree.
Well, you're not getting any benefit out of it, but it's not costing you the interest anyway. The next
no,
developers
but it's
are
costing
paying
the
for
people that are
that.
gonna buy houses in the future.
That's correct.
No, 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 no.
Okay. Like I said, I'm
Well,
willing to let the council make that
I think what
decision.
he's saying, Tom, as you know, in our fees that we have adopted now, we have the annual escalation. That's an
Right.
automatic
Right, okay.
escalation goes in, and
Oh, okay.
that's where the interest potentially would come in, is that rate of escalation that'll happen each year.
But it would
So
raise them from what they would normally be.
That's gonna happen anyway, because those fees are gonna go up,
Well, sure.
whether it's part of their interest or whatever, that, unless the council change something, those fees will automatically go up every year. So.
But as they go up every year, it comes to us.
Correct.
Right.
So your other point was that you want us to raise the reimbursement time from 15 to 20 years.
That's correct. And I believe in, because we are covered under the old CWSMP provisions,
What is that?
Citywide Services Master Plan
Thank you.
that was adopted in 94, I believe, is the date.
Yes.
Your new ordinance has a time limit of 7 years, but it also gives the council a flexibility. If the developer is contributing to substantial services and infrastructure that's going to benefit more than just his development, in this case, I think the Parkway is a perfect example of that, not to mention the new intersection, that you've got it under your new provisions. Would certainly like to have an extension under the old provisions, which I believe you have, as a council, have that authority.
And I would agree with the statement you just made along the lines of that particular infrastructure with the Sherman Parkway, with the intersections. Where I get held up, and I know that we have mitigating costs and you're going to be paying these funds for the infrastructure, is just that point, the build out for the infrastructure. I'm just not comfortable with it. We talked about it at length with the temporary basin, and then we didn't put a time parameter on that basin, which I wouldn't want to see sitting out there for a 20-year period. I'd rather have the easement through the swamp rats with the proper infrastructure that we have in place under conditions initially. I believe in being fair also. I know that your project is not the whole total 900 acres, and so that wouldn't be fair. So that's why we were looking for this particular temporary solution. But I'm not going to make a decision in post haste to have the city holding the bag on some future development where it's, you can call me cautious, that it just doesn't mitigate out because we're going to wait on this future development and this future housing to come in to pay the higher cost to put that infrastructure in to get it done. And I'm not going to, I just got a packet here from staff that was just passed out to me with all these differences in the agreement, and I'm supposed to absorb it in a matter of 5 or 10 minutes and then make a knowledgeable and prudent decision. I don't feel confident in doing that just on what we've been discussing just now. So in all fairness to you, and I understand you're holding out on a lot of money, and I'm not trying to make it a point to say that you can't build, but we want to be comfortable with that decision that's going to affect this town long after we're all gone.
Cleve, what's your recommendation about the 15 to 20?
Put him on the spot.
Hey, that's what you get the big bucks for.
This is the concern I have, and you know, I actually pushed and tried to get the 7 by them, but they didn't fall for it. But
We also heard 17 this afternoon also.
the 15. The reason I have a concern for it is the same thing that we're facing a little bit right now, is that things change so much over a 15-year period. I think you can talk to Curtis and Mike about the issue with Renown right now, and the reimbursement agreement that we had with them to reimburse oversizing that they did. They're currently holding the bag to the tune of about $300,000 because things changed, and that was only over a 10-year period. Things changed, and now, well, there's some discussion, but who knows whether or not they're ever going to get that money back. So my main concern is the longer you extend that out, the more possibility there is for change, which potentially creates some situations where, it causes problems. And my position on it is to try and keep it as short as possible. I do agree that because of the Williamson Act issue that, 7 years was probably unreasonable. But I don't think 15 is unreasonable, and I think up around there, but other than that, it's up to the council.
Any other questions for Curtis? Okay. Well, I think we need some discussion here among the council on this. Thank you, Curtis.
There are more items from the public?
Sure, if you'd like to get up, Mike, and talk.
Well, I didn't want to. I know you guys love to hear about my Oklahoma stories and that.
Not really, but
Michael Walker, 1335 Main Street. I'm the president of Hearthstone Builders. Just wanted to go over a couple items, and one is I do appreciate Cleve mentioning the Renown agreement. There was a developer that put in a tremendous amount of infrastructure in the ground and then turned around and was actually holding the bag on $300,000. Had an interest rate built into that agreement. We all understand that it's a risk, but what you guys have to look at here is we are got a 900-acre parcel out there that benefits. And we're being asked to put stuff in the ground, which we don't take exception to. We're willing to design, build, put it in the ground, put up hard money, get it in there and complete it, that benefits 800 acres above our project. Okay? All we're asking for is a fair share of money back. If the interest is not part of that, then that's fine. We can live with that. 15 years, I don't think is adequate. On the Lucas Ranch subdivision, we started out with 10 and asked for 10 more and got that 10 and paid some increased fees. About $170,000 in park fees and a lot of other fees that can go back and traced on Lucas Ranch, the original subdivision, fees that were paid. Now, I don't know where all those monies have been spent or how they've been put to use, but we pay our fees in advance. I've always known it to be a fact here that new development needs to pay its own way, and we're willing to do such. On December 14th of last year, we began this process. I don't have to tell or remind everyone what the date is today. It is a long and enduring process. I appreciate Mr. Parker's comments. I understand that, if he's not ready to agree to something, that's fine. I believe staff has worked diligently on it. The Renown situation, we took the advice of a city engineer that had developed an assessment district or an assessment area. It was a mistake. There was additional acreages that they put in these infrastructure for, and it didn't work. This is the first time that's ever been brought to anyone's attention. I'm sure Mr. Jackson Chi of Renown Enterprises doesn't necessarily appreciate me bringing that to conclusion, but since I was their developer's representative at the time and worked for them for over 10 years, I have no problem. I handled all their work on that matter and also helped them entitle the Sherman Ranch property. So I have a long history here. It goes back to 1988 of working within the city of Newman. So we definitely want our council and our staff to be comfortable with these items. We started this process with the general plan amendment, and we talked till we were blue in the face at that time on some of these items, one being the Sherman Parkway, one being some of these infrastructure improvements that we thought everyone had got the cart in front of the horse. Everyone thought that Newman was going to expand itself to close to 30,000 residents. I think we can all say at this point in time that's not going to happen. I don't want that to happen. I don't think you folks want this to become a city of 30,000 people. California in general, if you look at the birth rate and how we're growing, every valley community at this point is considered attainable. In general, in California, within this close proximity to the Bay Area, is no longer affordable. We can quit talking about it. It has to be attainable now. condos over in San Jose, talking about a little project over there and about 80 units, $650,000 for a condominium. That's not attainable or not affordable probably to any of us here in this room, but over there that is. Here we're still talking about housing in the high 100s to the mid 200s. And that is attainable for most people that have good jobs and that are able to save their money and that limit their family size. So we're hoping to provide that with Hearthstone Ranch Units 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're looking at a buyer and builder that's coming in, that's been working in the valley, been working in the Modesto area, to come in and develop and build Units 1 and 2. Hearthstone Builders and or its affiliates or associates is hoping on 3 and 4 to do something a little nicer, a little more upscale or move-up product. We've actually went in and explored, looking at the lots and making sure that we can get this particular architectural product on it. So, we work pretty diligently at what we do, and, I don't think we would be before the council here, and I hope we've never been asking them to do something that is not in the best interest of not only private investment, but also the public's interest. And what we ask here tonight, I don't think we're stepping out of bounds. I don't think we would put the city staff. We have been very hard on them of recently to make sure that they're looking at all these items. We don't want another Renown situation. We want to make sure all the numbers jive. We want to make sure the engineering is proper. And we feel pretty comfortable with it at this point. I've been gone for about a week, and David mentioned there was a workshop here a little over a week ago, and all of a sudden we find out that now we had a general plan and we were working towards these guidelines, and now some people have a different idea of how this thing's going to grow. And that causes some concern from a private interest. Because if we're out here putting stuff in the ground for an additional 900 acres and what potentially the amount of housing or development that may increase, and we're only talking about going to 10 to 12,000 people, then we're being asked to do something that we're never going to get the money back. So how would that make you folks feel? I mean, we're obviously trying to remain solvent and be profitable. We're obviously trying to offer something good for people that are coming into the city of Newman. But, it's important for all sides to be fair. And if we're never not fair, I want to be the first one to know about it, because we can go in and fix that with our engineers or with our associates. And our attorneys have worked very diligently, and I know that we've been going back and forth, and this is the wrong time of the year. Everybody seems to be on vacation, and it's very difficult to get answers. But gentlemen, at this point, we need answers, because obviously with the economy making some adjustments in a whole bit, we need to get started and get some dirt moved around on Unit 1. We've broken this project up in phases, to make it easier for the city and also for staff to be able to review this stuff. You take the whole project as a whole, and it's a pretty good sized project for a community and town of such as Newman is, and also the staff. So we want to try to make sure there's no errors in the math, make sure there's no errors in the engineering, and we want it to be something we're not in the habit of building monuments to ourselves, but we're in the habit to it being a monument to the community and something that the people that have so been involved, be something to be very proud of all the way around. And I'll be happy to answer any further questions or comments, and if you so have them.
You were mentioning about putting the oversized infrastructure that if we only have 10 or 12,000 people, why it isn't necessary. Well, I think we'll have 10 or 12,000 people within, hopefully, my lifetime. And I think we may end up with 30,000 people in a period of 30 years. And at that time, we will need that oversized. If it takes 30 years to get there, but still we're going to need it. So I think it's something that should be done. Any other questions for Mike?
No, I think you did a great presentation, Mike. It's good to hear from your side and what your perspective is. I think there's got to be a balance here. It's got to make sense to you, and it's got to make sense to the city. So I think that's the most important thing we have to do here, is make some sense out of this so everyone comes out a winner.
Yeah, protection is all we ask for. We'd hate to put all this in for the additional 800 acres. And, you know, we always talk about minor battles. You know, they're never personal. They're always just business related. But, you know, we could look at the interchange on Highway 33 and what we're being asked to build out there. And somehow it's considered that Hearthstone Ranch is, you know, the main impactor to that. But you're stubbing infrastructure to the west side of the city. You're actually putting in an intersection that if the parkway would continue, which I hope we're not just building it from Highway 33 to Hills Ferry Road, that you'd actually have properties on the west side benefit that intersection. I mean, we've even been willing to say, okay, fine, you know, we give, you know, kicking and screaming, we'll keep it to the east side. But you know full and well when the west side does develop, they're going to use the intersection. The parkway is going to continue. I mean, you know, we're willing to be, I believe, more than fair, and that's all we're asking. And I think we're very close. And I commend Mr. Hallinan and Brett Jolly and Tom Terpstra of Harem, Crabtree, and Brown. They've worked very hard on this to protect not only the city's rights and investment, but also our private investment. So I thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, I have a comment.
Sure.
With my colleague, Tim. I agree. This is the first time we've been presented with all this stuff. I mean, it's kind of hard and kind of difficult to sit up here and then within a 15, 20-minute period to make a decision that's going to affect a lot of people and a lot of money. And what I would like to see personally is that this go back to Cleve to sit down with Curtis and Mike and come up with an agreement on whether it's 7, 20, 15 or whatever, and bring it back to the council. But as far as the interest part goes, and you say, well, it's going to be paid for by increased fees. We put those increased fees in there so that we can do the things for the city that needs to be done and not to go back and paying interest. So in that part, I'm not for paying the interest, but I'd like to see you get together with them and then at the next meeting come up with some kind of decision. I mean, we just been hit with this tonight and it's just too quick.
I agree with my colleagues. And I
David?
wasn't at that general plan update meeting. I'd like to know what was said. Uh-oh, shouldn't ask.
Dave Tatro, Hearthstone Builders, 1335 Main Street, Newman. I'll answer your question, John, about the general plan update workshop with the Planning Commission last Thursday. But let me digress for a moment and answer Tom's question. The issue of 15 years, we've been working this with staff, and we've got nowhere. I mean, what you have in front of you is where we've been since December. 7 years, obviously, that does not make sense. 7 years, our attorneys here can talk about why 15 is a minimum. The additional 5 makes sense because of the issues we're dealing with on Williamson Act land that's 10 years before you can even start any kind of development. Now, Cleve can talk about in the old days, when LAFCO was a little bit easier to deal with, we were starting, or the city thought they were helping the developer by approving stuff subject to LAFCO. And it was pretty much a rubber stamp. I think everybody in this room would agree to that. Can you guys remember any project LAFCO turned down? Not since you've been on the council. That's changing. As a result of that, you know, the developer isn't going to spend, we spent close to $1 million where we are right now today with engineering, fees, structures, filing fees, attorney's fees, all this stuff. Based on a general plan that was adopted by the city after a very, very long 2-year process, tremendous amount of public input, and the city should be commended for that. Mintier produced that general plan starting in 1990, it was completed in 92. What's on the wall is what we, as a development community, are working with. It's not our plan, it's the city of Newman's plan. We don't build that, the city does. Our job as builders is to help you build the community that you designed 10 years ago. Needs to be updated. I'm now leading into John's question about what took place last Thursday night. To start with, the current, and I'm paraphrasing what the planning director had told the planning commission. The 1,114 lots, which is totally what's approved, is a 39-year build-out schedule based on the California Department of Finance. Does anybody in this room care to take a lot of stock and put a lot of faith in the state of California Department of Finance? I don't, not with a $24 billion budget shortfall. But anyway, their demographics say 39 years to build out.
I was told 16 to 37.
Well, said 39.
Okay.
Anybody think that's going to take place? I don't. If it does, Newman's in deep, deep trouble. You don't have to worry about paying me interest. The next question, there were some discussions about what the population should be. I think the city manager made a comment regarding, or I asked him if he made a comment pertaining to a population cap of 12,500 versus the 28,000 that's in the general plan. A number of commissioners were concerned about 28,000 population. More importantly, and this I found extremely interesting, you have 1,114 lots that have been approved in this city. Now, we've worked with the school district. I've been working with the school district ever since I've been in this town, 14 years. We finally got the school district forward planning, which is why they want to put an elementary school site on our Hearthstone Ranch project. They're buying that land from us. They're looking at building out the school or starting the elementary school, I believe, in about 2 to 3 years. Where that information came from is based on our marketing studies. Now, to give you an example of what I'm talking about, we have $4 million in this parkway. Not 100% of that is us. It benefits 800 acres to the north of the parkway. We're putting in a major intersection at Highway 33 and a railroad crossing where DePaul lives, across from Jensen Road. We're putting right-hand and left-hand turn lanes on Highway 33 for Caltrans. Now, Councilman Applegate says, why should we pay you interest? Well, I'm being the bank for the city of Newman for 20 years. Your interest is the fees. I pay them. We'll be paying them on new projects. Those fees are increased every year. Every March you'll increase them by whatever the cost of living is. As far as answering Councilman Parker's question regarding storm drain and solving that problem down Swamp Rats, you have a hard decision to make. If you want to do that, use your powers of condemnation, and it's in. And that's what you're going to ultimately wind up having to do, is condemn that. Not a popular situation for a city council to be in, but that's what's going to have to happen. It's a partnership, gentlemen, with the development community and the city. You're the city. Decision, I don't understand what that problem is. I mean, this is a straightforward question. Staff said 7 years, doesn't apply legally. Our attorney can tell you why. Your own city attorney can tell you that doesn't apply to us. 15 does. We're asking for an additional 5. And we were asking for interest at today's cost. Tom, you used to be in the bank. You know, I can't tell you what the interest rate's going to be 6 years from now, or 10 or 15 or 20. But I know it's not going to be 0.
Right now it's about 2, 1.5 to 2.
Well, we're borrowing at probably 5.5%.
Not in Bank America.
Well, that's why we don't. No,
We
but
have
that's our rate, is our 5.5% currently today. It's prime plus a half.
I'd like to get 5.5.
Well, I'll give you the name of the bank after the meeting.
Okay.
But, you know, and I think what my partner Mike has indicated is, you know, we may be willing to give up the interest. I do that kicking and screaming, okay? Specifically if we're going to get a decision tonight of 20 years. Okay? I think that's more than fair and reasonable. We need that because of commitments we have. that have to take place tonight. We've been dealing with staff on this issue, like I said, since last December. It was Cleve's decision to bring it to council and let you guys make a decision. We're not looking for a deferral or a delay. I'm looking for a decision, pure and simple.
I'm good at making those.
Okay? You know, and a delay or, you know, studying it, to me, it's very black and white. You know, we've got 15 years.
Well, you've been dealing with it all this time.
Well,
This
but
is all, this is just giving us to us tonight.
It's 15 years. Well, what your staff is looking at is, you know, do you agree with your staff? They've agreed to, that's what they've agreed to.
If I may, I hear there's some confusion here that this is the first time you've seen this document. Did you not get a staff report from your city manager last Friday, similar to what I got? That has
So you're
a,
talking about, what, 4 days?
okay, similar to
And now,
what?
yeah, but now it comes
Now
up
we
and
have a
it's
new one.
changed again.
The only change that was made to this document, gentlemen, since last week was that the words draft were taken off of the header, and we left a blank for how long this agreement is for. Instead of 15 years, we left it blank because we're looking for an additional 5 years. That's the only changes that were made to this document.
It's been 15 years, no interest.
Did you want to say something?
Yes, if I may.
Sure.
Mayor, council members, Brett Jolly. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Harum Crabtree Brown at 2291 West March Lane in Stockton, and we represent Hearthstone Builders in negotiating this reimbursement agreement and subdivision improvement agreement. And as you've heard tonight, we've been working on this since December with staff. Kudos go to Cleve and Mr. Hallinan. We've butted heads a lot over the last few months, but we've been hashing these issues out. And what we've got here tonight is one remaining issue of how long this reimbursement period should last. And Cleve is recommending 15 years. We're requesting 20. And I think as you've heard tonight, I would just like to reiterate that 20 is a reasonable length of time because of the circumstances affecting the surrounding properties. The way that we will be reimbursed is when the surrounding properties file their final maps and get their development entitlements. They will pay fees, which will then be paid back to Hearthstone. As it sits now, all of these properties are under the Williamson Act contract, and that is a state law that allows these properties to be contracted with the county, and they renew for a period of 10 years every year. They can only be canceled by filing a notice of non-renewal, which takes 10 years to expire. A notice of non-renewal has not been filed on any of these properties yet. That means even if all of these properties had a notice of non-renewal filed tomorrow, it would still take 10 years before they could even be annexed into the city and the development process could begin. The way the development process goes, you're looking at least another 2 to 3 years probably before you've got a final map and fees are being paid for Hearthstone to be reimbursed. In that case, if you're looking at 12 or 13 years from now before the fees even start coming in for reimbursement, and we cap it at 15 years, you're only going to be able to collect, or Hearthstone is only going to be able to collect reimbursement from those fees for a period of 2 years, 3 years maybe, and the way that the city is probably going to build out, you're going to see insufficient reimbursement to Hearthstone. And that's why we're asking for this additional 5 years, because we feel like if we can have up to 20 years total from this time to collect reimbursement, we will probably be able to collect a reasonable amount to justify this project. Essentially what we're doing is we're getting reimbursement for our oversizing of improvements. That's somewhat akin to a loan to the city. You say, we want these bigger improvements for the future. Please build them now, Hearthstone, and we will pay you back for them later when we have the money. The issue with the time is, it's how long, or for how long of a period we will be paid back. We feel like if we don't get 20 years, we're probably not going to get any kind of reasonable payback on that loan, and it's going to make the project potentially infeasible. And that's why we're requesting this time frame.
Weren't they aware of this going into this whole thing? That there was 15 years and that's how they'd be reimbursed? Well, this isn't something that just popped up, is it?
Well, perhaps Cleve.
We've been, like Brett has mentioned, like Mike has mentioned, and like I've mentioned, we've been negotiating this improvement agreement since December of last year. We didn't know about the 7 years or the 15 years until Friday at 5 o'clock last week. We also, there was some language about how to put together the reimbursement based on formulas that are in the CWSMP. We didn't get that information until July, I'm going to say July 23rd or somewhere in that arena, 6 months after we started negotiating. So yes, it has just come up.
And let's make a clarification here. When you got the information, you got it from
The city manager.
Where the 20 years comes from is in the ordinance, both the 7-year ordinance, which was just passed, and the one that was in the CWSMP. There is a provision in there that allows the council to extend the time limit beyond 7 and/or 15 years. And that's what we're asking you to do. It's within the ordinance, it's within your power to do that. Staff is saying 15. You heard Cleve indicate that he'd prefer to see it at 7, but he can't get it at 7 because of our vesting.
Right, no, that's
Yeah, we
out of the
understand
question, so.
All right, so the bottom line is that the ordinance allows you to either say, okay, it's 15,
Yeah.
or you may extend beyond at whatever time limit you guys are comfortable with.
Well, let me say something here. After listening to the attorney, I guess things have changed in the past couple of years, actually within the past year, really. And whereas LAFCO is really restricting how we're ever going to be able to build out here in Newman. So is it fair, Cleve, to say that it's going to take a lot longer than we thought to get other developers in here to build homes? And are we justified then in going to 20 years?
It could, and probably will in the information that we're getting from LAFCO.
Right.
They're right. It will be a more difficult process to annex properties in the future.
Which
I think
slows them down in getting reimbursement.
Very likely will,
So.
yeah. What I'd like to propose is something that I had initially talked with Curtis about, somewhat of a compromise. When we initially talked and we were talking about the 7 years, and I admitted to him that he's right, these properties are under Williamson Act, and therefore that's 10 years before those could come out. My recommendation was going to be, and to talk to the council about under the 7-year plan, was to say, take the 10 years from the Williamson Act, add the 7 years of our current policy, our new
17.
policy, and that leaves you at 17 years.
Are you guys comfortable with 17?
They may
and-
not be comfortable with that, I don't know, but that may be somewhat of a
17 and no
compromise we
interest?
could consider.
You want to auction this off, or?
I'll speak from my renowned experience. We would prefer 20 with no interest. If it was 17, we'd like to have some type of interest, maybe not at the rate today, maybe somewhere in half. I mean, we're willing to work with you guys. We really are.
Yeah.
And we're entrepreneurs. We love to gamble. I don't gamble on dice. I don't gamble on the tables. I don't go to Reno and Vegas other than to eat cheap food and stay cheap. But I gamble every day in the dirt and cattle business.
Okay, well,
Okay?
to me, in view of what, LAFCO and what Cleve was saying, that it is going to be a drawn-out process. You can see the handwriting on the wall. I would recommend the 20 and no interest.
I would concur with that.
Well, then I move that.
I second that motion.
Roll call.
Yeah, I think so. Should we roll call vote, please, Judy?
Councilmember Parker,
no.
Applegate.
Yes.
Martinez.
Yes.
Panacea,
No.
Mayor Reed.
No. Uh, Can we go over this again with some modifications to that?
Could always be
This-
reconsidered, but you asked for a yes, no answer, so.
I mean, you could make another motion now if you'd like with changing those provisions, but.
Councilmember Fantasia, would you like to make a motion for another motion?
Well,
Of what
I for
compromise
one,
possible?
even though everybody said there's only a couple of changes to this new, deal, I don't like signing anything until I haven't read it myself, no matter what it is and no matter who says it. So I just want to read this agreement. Because, I mean, not saying that it wasn't done right, but, getting this tonight, I don't like signing anything unless I read it myself. That's my position tonight.
That was my thought. We have to look out for the well-being of the city, and I think that although what Councilmember Applegate brought up, the 10 and 20 is not within reason. I think it's within reason.
Well, it's your
but
opinion.
we just haven't, I don't think we've digested this whole thing.
That's your opinion that it's not within reason.
That's my opinion.
Right.
Yes,
I just want to make it clear.
yes. Certainly isn't yours. Councilmember Parker.
I don't have anything further,
Comment.
Mr. Mayor.
Well, looks like it's tabled.
Yeah, okay, we'll table this until next meeting, and we'll instruct staff to go back with a compromise.
So you want us to negotiate with them further on this issue and come back? to
Yeah,
council?
evidently, yes,
or-
we've turned down
It could always
the...
be reconsidered.
I would agree to that, that if you want to bring it back up after we've had time to digest
After we read this.
In fact...
Well, what I heard
would be...
I heard is perhaps that the council wants more time to look at it yourselves, and maybe you
I
can
would
ask
be
questions
willing
to me, but.
to do this at a special meeting next week if the rest of the council
Why a
agrees.
special meeting?
Yeah, I would concur to that.
That's fine with me.
Tim?
I won't be available Tuesday of next week. Another commitment.
I won't be available
We'll just bring it back to the next meeting. Everybody has time to go in and talk to Cleve and get it straight. I don't think you need a special meeting.
All right. We'll bring it back at the next meeting.
Well, I'll call for a point of order, our next agenda item.
Gentlemen, if there's any chance that we could do this at a special meeting, it would be most beneficial to Hearthstone for the fact that we've got financial commitments on a due date of August 30th with a 5 days prior notice of documents that are in place, which if we get to your next meeting, paperwork isn't signed till the 28th, and that pushes us into the following month. And that was the reason for getting this document in front of you tonight.
All right.
Okay, I'll change my opinion. I would think that if you want to call a special meeting, go ahead.
Okay.
I'd like to get a special meeting when everyone can be here. Tim, you can't be here next Tuesday?
Not the 20th.
Next Tuesday is also the chamber mixer, Mayor, that we have scheduled here.
Could we have
It
it,
doesn't necessitate it being an actual Tuesday. You
could
want
we have it,
You can have any day.
About
Monday or
Thursday-
Wednesday?
About Thursday
The
or something
20
like that, next week.
the
No?
22nd of August?
We've got the planning commission
Oh,
switch
what
from
about
this
the-
Thursday to next Thursday.
What about Monday? Cleve,
Monday?
I'm out of,
what about Monday?
Monday, the
19th.
yeah, I'm absent through that time. Wednesday, the 21st will be my earliest available date for a special meeting.
we could have it, if it would be possible, earlier on the 22nd, prior to the planning commission meeting.
We'd have a 6 o'clock
But
meeting.
that would, they meet at 7.
6
Okay.
o'clock special meeting on the 22nd.
6 o'clock should...
If you feel that that's adequate time to,
I think
That'd work.
I think we owe it to them to try and get this resolved as soon as
So what are you
possible.
saying, the 22nd?
the 22nd? Yes, the 22nd at 6 o'clock. Curtis, does that give you adequate, with that?
Am I hearing the planning commission meeting
22nd, correct.
Yes, because of vacations, that'll be the 22nd.
Can I make a motion?
Oh, I'll make it.
That's fine, fine with me.
That's a concurrence.
All right,
I can be
Tom?
with that.
okay.
What time is it?
6.
6 o'clock, 22nd.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Curtis.
Thank you for your patience, Kurt.
Item number 10 is being tabled. We don't have the agreement finished with that. Item 11, items to city manager.
Just quickly, a couple of things. I know it's late. I'll go through this. The main thing is on the industrial park that I want to bring up. I think I've pretty much covered that unless you have any questions. We hope to have an answer back on that from our city engineer on Monday. Actually, he's finishing up this week. He's going to be out of town. He's been out of town till Thursday, and he'll have that finished up, hopefully to get an answer to us on Monday on that. The other issue is with the downtown streetscape. We are pursuing that as quickly as we can. There are some issues with getting the lettering completed that we're working on, and as well as the intersection, but we feel that we've got a good solution to that and that we're going to be able to get that finished up in the very near future. We've come across, as I've mentioned before, some solutions that we think are going to be good ones that'll work in those intersections. So we're close to being able to finish that up. And I'll keep you informed as soon as we get a final decision on that, so you know where we're at on that. I believe that's all the items I have, unless there's other questions.
Cleve, just a question on that work. I think Ernie had shown us what the lettering would look like, but what about the tiles next to the lettering? Would those be replaced? There are some tiles that are cracked.
That's one of the things that we're looking at. The main one that's the worst is the Fresno intersection, and that's the
Right.
one where we're evaluating, trying to see what we're going to be able to do there. There was a comment by the contractor that he felt he might be able to use this same material to simply seal those cracks, and if he could match the color that was there. I'm not convinced that that's going to work, but we're going to look at that and see if that may be an option.
Is there an option to replace the tiles completely?
That would be our next option if this does not become a solution. Yeah.
Thank you.
John, anything you have to say?
The only comment I wanted to make was on the industrial, that we talked about that drain pump last meeting, and it was turned on, and it did not make a bit of difference. Didn't even bring the water table down 1 inch, so.
I think we need a
That's why
giant
we still
sponge
have,
down there.
that's why we still have problems. That's all I had.
Okay. Bob?
I have nothing tonight, Mayor.
Tom?
Nothing.
Tim?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
I have a few things here. I'll go through them real quickly. Question, Ernie, we had this problem with the well last week, and what did you come up with? You were going to meet with the company that was supposed to notify us, or notify you when something happened like that, and it didn't work. What did they say to that, and have we solved the problem or not?
Well, what we had last Sunday night is we lost a motor over on well number 5, so that went out of commission. And we, unbeknownst to us, there was also damage to well number 6, the variable speed drive. So that well shut down. By the time, what happens is when there's a pressure loss, the tank opens up an automatic valve and it dumps onto the system so that we get a chance to come out and check to see what the problem is. We have an automatic dialer that will call numbers in case there is a problem. The problem that we have with the automatic dialer is that when a water well cycles and there's a momentary pressure drop, automatically it starts calling numbers right away. So you have the call out guy run out, by the time he gets there, the problem's resolved. And so you got to turn around and pay the guy 2 hours overtime for the call out. So that's a problem that we're having with that dialer, trying to find out how to resolve that problem with being able to delay the dialer so that it won't call out immediately, automatically. And I've been talking with Tesco, the guy who came over to fix the computer board, because we had the computer board was damaged at well number 6. And he went over and he took a look at it, and he's going to be getting back to me, but we really don't know if we're going to be able to come up with a solution to it. At the present time, everybody on the Public Works crew has a pressure gauge at their home. And so there's several throughout the city, and we keep a constant eye on that. And as soon as we see that there is a pressure drop, we'll automatically come out and see what's happening. But what really happened Sunday night was really an anomaly. I mean, we've never had 2 wells shut down like that.
We just don't want to get in a situation like that again where we drain the tank and.
No, sir. The tank had gotten down to about 5 feet, and the pressure drop had been significant, but we brought it right back. Doug and I came out and we bypassed the computer system, and so it brought the tank, filled it up right away. And,
Good.
Ernie, just from
Thank you.
your explanation, part of that was usually these have been false calls. It sounds like what you were saying, like a false alarm. In other words, it's been triggered where the automatic dialing was coming on, someone will come out, find out it didn't really exist. But in this instance, it actually was not crying wolf. It was a situation, but it didn't work.
Not quite.
Okay.
What actually happens is, if well number 5 is running and it's a constant speed and the pressure starts climbing too high, the well will automatically shut down because the pressure is too high past the set points. So when it shuts down, slowly the pressure starts going down, 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 and before it can get to the startup set point, the pressure has dropped down to, by the time it gets to that point, the startup set point, the alarm goes off. But the well will come back on. When it starts up, it pumps to waste so that it can get all the sand out of the system. It won't come into the system. So the pressure continues dropping. The tank opens the valve, stabilizes the pressure about 40 pounds. And so when the well comes back online, then the pressure problem is gone. So you've only had a momentary a loss of pressure. And because it had been doing that, because it does that, we didn't have the automatic dialer in the response position.
Okay. There's the key matter.
Right.
And it wasn't on.
Right, it wasn't on because we were having those problems, and we're trying to find a way to resolve that so that perhaps it can give us a delay of maybe 10 minutes, and then before it can call out, and then in that manner, you don't have somebody running out real quick and finding out that by the time it gets here, there's really anything you can do about it. Okay? It gets a little complicated, so.
Yeah, but I understand it.
Okay.
It
Good.
wasn't said it wasn't on at this.
Right, no, it was not on.
And both
Okay.
wells are on now again.
We have the motor back on well number 5, and the VFD, the new computer, has been put in on well number 6. However, because one of the contacts on the starter had been burnt out, that was removed, and Hawk Systems has ordered a part, should be here sometime tomorrow. Then we will be able to put the starter in the variable speed drive. Okay, the variable speed drive on well number 6, what it does is it controls the pumping rate according to the pressure, the desired pressure. Because we don't have that variable speed drive in effect right now,
Someone has to watch it all the time.
Yes, we have to watch it because it's a fixed speed. So in the mornings, we got to go out there and rev up the pump so that it can keep up with the pressure, because everybody's using a lot of water in the morning. In the afternoon, when the water conservation goes into effect, everybody quits using water. That's the time when the wells shut down so that the tank can drain, cycle out, and get fresh water in. Once it fills back up, then that well, because it has been revved up because of the morning hour use, now we have to run back and tone it down and bring it back down so that the pressure won't get too high and put us into that cycle mode, you know. It'll shut off and then it drops and then back and forth, so. But we're keeping a close eye on that, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Ernie.
You're welcome.
Our chamber mixer is the 20th. The city's sponsoring it. It'll be right here in the council chambers. Anyone wants to come down, good food, a lot of good socializing. That's at 6 o'clock. Downtown recycling starts September 1st. That's for the merchants. If they call Bertolotti, they will send them whatever they need as far as containers. The one other thing is I had talked with the chamber the other night, and they would like to put a flag, you know, the new signs that we have at the entry for the service organizations. There are hangers on the inside, and would like to put up an American flag on aluminum or plastic or something, about 3 by 6 feet, I believe, on both ends of the city. And we think that that would be a good thing for the surcharge fund to pay for. I'll get into this a little more next week. And also the facade improvement, I'd like to make some changes in there to allow for self-work benefit for people that want to do their own projects as far as the fixing up the painting, whatever. And one other thing, the volunteerism meeting, we had everyone but volunteers, so hopefully we can come up with something, particularly in Parks and Recreation. We're going to have another meeting. When, did we schedule that yet, Cleve?
No.
Okay, we will get one though. And so we're about out of
Were you
time.
going to submit the flags to the surcharge committee?
Bob Navoa has some drawings. That, can you make some copies of those for next week at that special meeting? Yeah, I will, yeah. We can do that real quick, yeah.
My question is, does the council need to look at that before it goes to the business license surcharge committee, or do you want to go?
Should go first
Should
and
go
then
to the business
council.
surcharge committee.
That's what my feeling was.
Yeah,
I just wanted
I
to make
think
sure you're in
they're in
agreement
a
with that.
position of approving those things now.
So we can take it to them first
Yeah.
and then schedule it for a
So,
council
yeah,
agenda once
yeah,
they.
okay,
That's the
so
process.
maybe we'd even do that one day this week.
Okay.
So that's all I have, and we get a motion for adjournment?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Where's the chamber mixer?